Actually, it starts recording now.
Oh,
it just doesn't show.
Oh, you tried it?
Because but we can still wait for it. Oh, okay, it started. Okay, so
let me just double check something. So
it's okay.
We are fine. We are fine. We are fine. We are fine. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Freethinkers podcast. My name is Adam.
And my name is Hugo.
And today, Hugo, I think we have a very, very interesting topic. Would you like to introduce it?
Yeah, today we're doing a sort of tier list for different ideologies. So we have divided them up into, what is it?
Six tiers.
Yeah, so we have
Should we start with, let's go from top to the bottom. So we have the S tier, which is obviously the best tier. It's the lesser of all evils. Then we have the A tier, which works moderately fine. The B tier only works in certain scenarios or situations. The C tier, good idea on paper, but bad in practice. The D tier, bad idea on paper and in practice. And then F is impossible and very highly immoral.
Yes.
But all right, so should we get started with that then?
Yeah, we should probably just start with one.
Lovely. All right, let's start with perhaps one of my favorite ideologies. If I can find it on the tier list.
Egoism sounds very interesting.
Yeah, we'll get to there later, but should we start with autonism?
Wait, you said
autonism?
Autonism.
Yeah.
I actually haven't heard about that.
Oh, it's where you're happy to live under an authoritarian state.
Oh, interesting.
And you follow everything the state does.
Oh, fantastic.
Usually this leans a lot more into the
communistic practice?
Yeah, communistic practice. It can be, but it's also being towards the right sometimes as well, but usually it is very communistic.
It's just for authoritarian and totalitarian in general then?
Yeah, basically. The main points of this being, follow your government and believe everything your government does because they obviously want the good for all the people. Where would you rank this? Let's start with that.
I mean,
I think it's a C for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's a good idea on paper.
Yeah, on paper.
In practice, it's very bad.
Yeah, because the idea obviously says follow the government. The government only wants the best for you.
Yeah.
But do they ever really want that?
Exactly. Corruption is always a problem in society.
Of course.
And the thing is, I mean, we as humans have always wanted to have a perfect dystopia where everyone follows the rules. But the problem is everyone is not the same. Everyone has different ideas. Everybody wants different amounts of freedom. I mean, freedom is like a essential part of. I guess it depends. Like autism is that more you do you still have a free will to do whatever you want, or is it mostly just are the only boundaries you have to
follow everything the government says and does?
Oh, okay. So,
and be supportive of it.
That kind of reminds me of George Orwell's
1984.
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah, that's basically what they like. They read a book like 1984 and say, "Oh, this is a perfect society."
And I mean. And that's one thing that I was thinking about was what Anders said, the historian teacher. He said that basically our goal as a society is to become in a way that that everyone gets access to everything and that we will not have needs anymore, and which will basically make us into the perfect utopia.
Yeah, because I think, because here's the thing, I don't think it's worth pushing it down to D, because I feel like, I mean, if the government was very, very moral and very, very correct in its decisions, I feel like it could be a great idea to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of already works in Sweden. People follow the government quite often, and but I think it will never really work in practice. As this happens with most places. Are we happy with the C tier?
Yeah, I think so.
Then we should move on to one of the one of the more interesting ones.
Nordic model.
Yes,
Oh,
the one we
fantastic.
live in, the one we do,
exactly.
which is it's a weird mix
It's a weird mix.
It's a weird mix of socialism and capitalism.
Yeah.
Would you like to explain that?
I mean, it's very. I mean, the Nordic model is basically, like you said, it's a bit of a weird mix between socialism and capitalism.
Yeah.
Like and also a very important thing is that we have a great like social network.
Yeah.
So that we have like, if somebody in our society is in some way like goes bankrupt, something happens, they kind of like lose everything.
Yeah.
And they kind of, drop out of society in a way. There has to be a state which can lift them up again and help them back.
And I think what you can look at mostly is in today's society globally. The Nordic countries rank among the highest in happiness, in equality, in welfare, in most stuff that you like as a human being.
Yeah.
So I think this is an easy S tier, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it's an easy S tier because.
And we're not being like egotistical.
No. I mean, I'm not Swedish, so I can't really say. But I think the model itself it's so well, and you can complain all you want when you live in Sweden, right?
Course, yeah.
Because it's what you get used to. But if you look at a lot of other ideologies, it doesn't get much better than the Nordic model, in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Are we happy with an S tier then?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's go with social democracy.
Oh, social democracy, yeah. I mean, personally, I really love the idea. Yeah. It's a very fine idea. I mean, it's like, yeah, we're not supposed to be political here. I love the idea of socialism or social democracy, because since we're going into the Nordic model a bit, the idea that you as a person should not it's more of in the sense that you are entitled, and also in a way, so it's more like you are entitled to a great amount of things, which also means that you at the same time also have to work to get such entitlement. Yeah. In a way, but that you have great social network, that you have, for example, the different, I don't know what it's called, unions.
Yeah, workers' unions.
Workers' unions, which is a great thing, in my opinion.
Love it. I completely agree.
Yeah, that like if you're treated like disrespectfully at your work, you're supposed to be able to like complain about it.
Obviously.
Since, it's not your fault, it's your employer. And thus you should not have to change your job or your employment. It's your manager that's supposed to change.
Yeah, obviously, and I think I'm floating between a B and an A tier. Again, now I think it's more of an A tier. I don't think it's S tier at all, because I think the social democracy plays into the Nordic model as a part of it. Yeah. But it's not the entirety of the Nordic model. But I think it's a part of it, and
what I will say though, for me, what is the weakness for me, at least when I think of social democracy, is the idea that it's still kind of, since it's a branch of communism in a way, in the sense that you can't be too entitled, or we're supposed to minimize class differences. It gets the idea that the more you earn, the more you have to pay for it. It kind of, it feels like you are kind of putting a
bump in the road.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the negative.
But I think it works more to find more than only working in certain situations.
And I know that like social democracy isn't that radical about it, but
Yeah, I think for me it's between B and A. I think it only working in certain situation. I think it only work in a situation where people trust the government. I don't think a place like America would adapt well to social democracy.
No,
because they have so much distrust for the government to begin with.
Yeah.
Whilst a place like Sweden has, they actually have some trust in the government. So where'd you put it? B or A?
Works moderately fine, or only works in certain situations. That's a really good question, but I think the B tier would fit it.
I'll agree.
Like you said with the US, for example, they will never have socialism.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Now time for the ideology I most agree with. Centrism.
Centrism. Yeah.
Would you call yourself a centrist?
Yeah, probably. It's like, you know, it's in the middle, so you can kind of be safe in a way. But I do like the ideas of individualism and the idea that like you're supposed to have more free control over yourself and your interests and investments.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting is with centrism, I mean, we can get an extreme case of centrism, which is Switzerland. That's neutralism, if not centrism. And I think, I mean, a country like Switzerland is among the highest when it comes to stuff like I've said before with the Nordics. You know, living conditions and whatnot, right? So I think centrism for me is between an A and an S. I think the issue comes with centrism is when you start with extremists, because there are extremists in today's society as well. And I think to see extremists as outcast for not picking a side, and I think that could hurt centrism in voting and whatnot for not being completely sure on a topic.
Because I mean, look at the recent Swedish election, for example. Like the centrist parties, like the Liberals and the Center Party, both had like one of their lowest results ever, which kind of, like you said, goes to show that when people, since their party leaders, like they aren't very
certain of decisions or beliefs,
which means that people
won't trust the party as much.
Yeah, exactly, because they want a very certain answer for what will happen after the elections and with the.
I think A is perfect for centrism.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think it can be S tier, but I don't think it can be a D tier either.
Yeah.
Well then, shall we move on? Shall we move on to one of the more how do I put this? More interesting ones?
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Actually, I think wait, isn't that just a branch? Oh, maybe. I think it can be a branch, isn't it? Never mind. No, it's not. Anyway, esoteric Nazism or Nazism in general.
Okay, so it's just Nazi.
I don't think there's much discussion on this, but
no, not really. Like it kind of goes to show. I mean, we already know what Nazism is. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because first of all, huge belief in authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And leaving full control to the government, which we discussed before, is already a bad idea. But not only tying into outcasting an entire group of people, a huge group of people, killing 6 million of that group of people, and threatening the entirety of the continent of Europe with a war. Maybe even perhaps the world. And it was. So I don't think we'll get a much more clearer F tier. No. Do you have any complaints or any more comments to add to that? I mean, no, you took most of it up. It's just like it's not. No, it's immoral and it's impossible. So it's not impossible. Like I mean, they did it. They created such a state, or at least they began with it. Fortunately, they could not develop it. I mean, look. I mean, imagine how the world would have been if they won the war. Like it would have been like. I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't even know. And that's the thing. Like it's completely like no. Yeah, very, very different in perhaps a traditional sense, right? Yeah. Shall we move on to conservatism? Yes, conservatism. What do you think about conservatism? Because my view of conservatism is the Tory party in the UK, and from my understanding, it's that conservatives have fucked over the country of the UK. They are making it by fucked over. I mean, in a sense of like the country's going the EU, for example. Leaving the EU, for example, which wasn't a good idea. Which is it's hurt the country tremendously. Look at the antics of Boris Johnson. Yeah, exactly. you know, a clown in office, if you will.
I mean, he wasn't really a politician in a sense.
No, but neither was Donald Trump. So
like, we're not supposed to be political here, but you
yeah,
know,
we are centrists. So
yeah, we're saying our mind here. But I would say though,
but it's not even on mine. It is factual because the UK has gone from the fourth largest economy in the world to now the eighth under 12 years of conservatist leadership. And they were fourth when they handed over from the Labour Party to the Tory Party. So in 12 years they have lost 3 positions in the world economy.
But it's also really hard because you also, I think, at least in my opinion, you have to take into account the difference between political parties of a nation and the ideology itself.
Yeah. But okay, but as I say, it's just
of course,
it's just my understanding of conservatism.
Of course, like conservative, like the parties following that ideology, of course, it goes to show how it kind of is in practice, of course.
Yeah. But on paper, it's to keep the values of old. And
it's very traditional.
Do you think that's a good or bad thing to keep the values of old? Because as time progresses, I think we should adapt to change, you know?
And that's kind of the thing, because it's always that you hear that you can't get like stuck in the past because then we won't move forward.
Precisely.
So, you know, in that sense, conservatism is really like, it's weird.
It is.
Me, at least. But I would agree on the points that we, like, some things we have to like slow down in a way. For example, the really weird decisions made, like, for example, to convert from fossil fuels to pure electricity, for example, here in Sweden, which has resulted in the, like, for example,
the petrol prices rising tremendously,
and the electricity
bills
as well, and that, like, it's gonna, in the southern parts of Sweden, we will have to like turn off our electricity and stuff. Like, it's just that I think they are a good like decision, or they're a good option if we find ourselves in a time where we kind of have to slow down a bit, since if like change has happened at such a rapid rate that we can't keep up, so we kind of have to slow down a bit.
Yeah, I think for me it's between a D and a C tier.
Yeah,
because it's both, in practice it won't work. I think we've established that, right?
Yeah. But it's good on paper.
Yeah.
At least, like,
I could agree with that. A C tier then, shall we say? Perhaps on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, if I may find it here on the tier list, there it is. Gender accelerationism.
Oh, Jesus. What's that?
Well, obviously, talking about the gender identity, obviously there was a huge change or shift happening about 10 years ago, started at least, where I think, as you know, the word gender used to mean the same thing as the word sex, meaning whatever you're born biologically as, either a male or a female, is what you will be throughout your life. But obviously, gender that's changed in the past years.
Yeah.
And there become more and more genders, so to speak, and identifying as a bunch of different stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so this is just to accelerate the process even more, right? So where do you stand on this? Because it's an interesting topic. It's a complete.
It is an interesting topic, I think. It's so hard as well to kind of, since it's such a broad topic, it's kind of hard to in some way put an opinion on it.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's more or less, you know, I would say this, that I have no problems with people wanting to identify as something else.
Yeah,
it does not bother me at all. Like, you can be whatever you want. It doesn't matter for me. Like, I respect everyone and everyone's like opinions, as long as it doesn't like in some way go out over me or my life. Yeah. So it's more of a, I get more afraid if it goes into a radical standpoint, and so which affects my life. But as long as it doesn't affect my life, like personally, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
and I think a lot of gender accelerationism, it usually tends to lean quite a lot to the liberal and left-leaning side, usually. So I think we can also tie in perhaps their political views often gender acceleration also fights for equality, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
I think everyone deserves equal rights,
of course,
no matter who you are, what you do, or what you believe in. So I think it is a good thing, but as you said as well with conservatism, it's because accelerationism is to progress even faster than it is. And I think, as you said, I think we need to slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down a little bit. Would you put it in C or D?
It's hard. Like,
or would you put it anywhere else? Would you?
Or
do you think C and D is a good range?
I think we have to put it like in a.
But before that, we can just agree, because we didn't do this before. Conservatism over autism.
Conservatism.
Yeah, I always say conservatism. Okay, but yeah, gender acceleration.
I mean, D.
D?
Yeah, for me at least. I don't know. It's just that you can't. I won't really see it as an ideology which will in some way like rule political life.
No.
Or have a dominant say in political life. It's just that it seems kind of for me at least impossible at this moment. But you could be totally wrong.
All right, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. That one was really interesting though.
No, but
Himmlerism.
No, that wasn't what we're supposed to go for.
No, but greenism. Yeah. Oh, so it's basically just like environment.
Yeah, environment. Yeah. The Green Party, for example, a lot of their beliefs as well. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that one. I definitely believe that we, of course, have to take into consideration that we have to
save the environment.
Yes, since we live on one planet only, we have not in any way.
Before Elon Musk starts to colonize Mars.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that. So at the moment, we only have one planet, which we have to, in some way, like try to.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a bit what the Greens believe?
A lot of environment stuff, and it's like but it's very. I mean, it's leaning towards the left side,
but it's a lot more centrist than people believe.
It's pretty centrist as well, since it's a lot also about individual rights and individualism.
Yeah,
in many ways.
Yeah, and it's also taxing and doing big hits against huge companies who will, for example, say for example, did you know it's cheaper for a company based in America to make their products in America, not make them, to send a boat to China, make the product in China, send that boat back to America, to then sell it there, than it is to make it in America, package in America, and sell it in America.
Oh.
So the Greenies wants to put a huge restraint on that, on one, not exploiting cheap workforce, because you can look at a company like Shein, right? Exploits children and whatnot, right? So Greenies wants to put an end to that. They also want to take out big corporations and their immoral actions when it comes to the environment. But also, I think the negatives come when putting a bigger tax on, for example, flying, which I can understand, but for a common person, it's a lot cheaper to fly, from one country to another than to drive there. So where would you put? Because I feel like for me it's a pretty firm B, but below social democracy.
Yeah, because I think social democracy is a bit more established in the world,
Yeah.
And thus, since there's still a lot of people in the world which don't really accept, or I mean, they have good support in some countries. Like I think in Germany it's the Social Democrats now.
But Green Party, for example, I know in I believe it's Norway. They have a huge
support.
Yeah, support for the one and only fucking.
But
Greens.
I don't think it goes above social democracy. So we can. I think it's good.
Yeah, we have a vice.
Oh my
do you
God,
want
that one.
Do you wanna
QAnon?
QAnon?
Oh Jesus.
You want to explain what they like and
like? It's a lot of. It's just a bunch of like what do you call it? Not proper.
Alt-right.
Yeah, it's alt-right, but it's like they have a lot of
propaganda.
No, not propaganda, like theories. What do you call
conspiracy theories?
Yeah, conspiracy theories. And,
about.
I mean, they're not serious at all.
But do you think people believe in QAnon?
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, but do you think they're a serious party? I mean, I think the issue comes when they shut down like a whole 8 or 10 blocks of Seattle and hold that hostage for about 2 months.
Yeah, that's like since it's immoral, we have that then.
Yeah, I believe it's an easy F tier.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic though too. It's also one of the, I think it's the most.
You can say a lot about it,
but it's one of the newer.
But
one of the newer ideologies.
But it's an actual party in the US, or
yeah,
is that?
No, it's not an actual, but it's an identity. It's a political ideology.
Yeah.
But it's one of the newest political ideologies, isn't it?
Yeah, because I just heard about it during the storming of the Capitol, you know.
Yeah, of course, that's when.
And they were just, you know, because you heard that they were involved, and you were like, yeah,
lovely,
fantastic. Because you know they're saying a bunch of different stuff. We won't have to get into that.
I think this is quite a recent topic.
Yeah.
You know, on the topic of the Queen's death.
Yes.
Monarchism.
Monarchism, yeah.
Which is different from a monarchy. It's under the rule of a king or a queen, and that king or queen decides. So no prime minister, no president. It's a king or a queen.
Yeah. Which
rules your country and makes all the political decisions.
So authoritarian.
yeah, it could be.
I mean, or could it perhaps be more, maybe like?
I mean, we can look at a country like. Okay, I was going to say Saudi Arabia, but they're quite authoritarian. If the Saudi Arabian government is listening, please don't
don't send any squad to any of our houses.
Exactly.
We already know that you know where we live, but
precisely.
We don't need any visitors at this time.
Yeah. But I think monarchism in general is bad.
Yeah.
Because it's a glorified dictatorship.
Yeah, exactly. More or less.
More or less, yeah. And
it's an old like.
It is a really. I think it's like the oldest ideology here, isn't it?
Yeah, but now, like nowadays, it is impossible to have it. At least
there are also countries that still use monarchism, like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar.
Technically, we also still have monarchism.
It's just that because it's only the monarchy.
No, it's constitutional monarchy.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's so weird because technically our king is the head of government,
but he can't do shit.
He can't. Yeah, exactly. But it's so weird because, in my opinion, if I want to say if we should still have the royal family, I don't really think so, because we aren't benefiting from it, because the state gives them money to just fuck around,
basically,
more or less. So we won't.
I think for me it's pretty easy to D tier, because I don't think it's as bad as Nazism, but I don't think it's as good as conservatism.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's better than gender accelerationism?
Progress is better than.
Yeah, I think. Speaking of which, QAnon or.
I mean, Nazism should be like in the like furthest pit of hell.
Yeah.
If we're speaking in that.
I mean, this is just pick your poison, really.
Yeah, more or less.
But yeah, no, that was a really interesting one. Should we? Let's see.
We should probably take one final one.
I think 2 more. I'm quite happy to. I've seen one here, but
because we're on a short time span here.
Indeed. Okay, let's take one which I've lived in.
Oh, Titoism.
Titoism.
Yeah, fantastic. So, what do you think, Alan, of Titoism?
I think in its heyday, it actually did work quite well.
Yeah.
Because it took Yugoslavia from a country of pure despair from a previously fascist leader to Tito, a rebuilding Yugoslavia, but everyone getting equal rights no matter where you live. And at that time, let's remember, Yugoslavia was probably the most diverse place to, not even at that time, in any time ever. I think there's never been a more diverse country of the size of Yugoslavia than Yugoslavia. Because remember, Yugoslavia had Muslims, it had atheists, it had Orthodox, it had Protestants, and it had Catholics. And all of them lived under the same country and were friends.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
However, the issues come with Titoism is as soon as Tito died,
everything went
to shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where everything, because it was all dependent on one man.
Yeah, exactly. It isn't like short term, it's perfect. Long term, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the issue. That's the issue with Titoism to begin with. There is not enough backing from the government. Also, people started to get impatient because it started having the same effects as communism, where it's like, oh, I work my ass off being a fucking doctor just to get the exact same thing as that guy who's a cleaner. So I think that's where a lot of the issues are coming in.
Yeah.
But in its heyday, it worked perfectly. I think it's an easy C tier, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do you think Titoism is better than Autonism?
I mean, Autonism is probably worse.
Yeah, conservatism or Titoism? I think conservatism is better.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just that Titoism, since it's like, for me, if we're talking authoritarian states, it's like, it's a no for me.
Yeah, but it wasn't really that authoritarian.
No, of course you had, and like you said, when there's a bunch of people groups, then communism works in such a way fantastically.
Yeah.
Since there's a bunch of people and it's a very secular ideology. So in such case, it works.
Should we do one more? I think we have time for one more.
Yeah,
And I want to put one of the more interesting ones on here. I want to put. Should we do that one? Is that one will bring in this one, anarchism?
What with? Oh, just anarchism in general.
Anarchism in general, yeah. Okay. Because obviously you have different branches: anarcho-communism, anarcho-feminism, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Nihilism, whatever. But I think anarchism in general and anarchism as an idea, because this sparks a lot of debate.
Yeah, it really does.
Do you know the beliefs of anarchism?
It's just basically a stateless state.
Yeah, fuck the government.
Yeah, more or less. It doesn't because then we're just reverting back to primal ages.
Back to monkey.
Yeah, more or less.
Where would you rank it? Because this can go anywhere, really. This can go anywhere.
So you're putting this on me.
I mean, I don't want the one having shots fired at me. So.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, because this one is. I'm sorry, but it's worse than monarchism in my opinion.
I think it's a D tier. I think it's below monarchism.
Yeah.
And okay, I think we'll end it there, right?
Sure, we have a lot of free will, but everything's
not everything is stateless. Nothing works.
Yeah.
So to recap,
yes.
S tier, lesser volleyballs. We have the one and only Nordic model.
Yes.
Perhaps one of the best ideologies. I think there are a couple on here on this list that would go above it, but I think for now, Nordic model will stay on top. I think we'll do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, I think so too. That was really interesting.
I think we'll continue with this next time.
Yeah, I think so.
So there will be part 2. Centrism in A tier. I think we said a lot about that. I think it's a huge part of the Nordic model, but I don't think it will be as good as the Nordic model because it lacks a lot of things that the Nordic model has. We also said about voting. People want a clear path to
which means that they lose voters since
in B tier we have social democracy, followed behind it by greenism. You're happy with that ranking?
Yeah, since in my opinion, social democracy is more because they take in some of the values of greenism and I mean, it's more of it's a more long-term effective ideology, I think.
Of course, and I think they do what greenism can't do, which is they obviously want a good environment, but they also want the best for the common man.
Exactly.
Which greenism doesn't really consider. C tier, good idea on paper, but bad in practice. We have conservatism.
Yes.
I think a lot of people will be mad at that it's not higher.
Yeah, probably.
But I think we've already stated our reasons as to why we put it in C tier.
It's that since they're more about like slowing down progress, which kind of,
it can fuck over.
Reverting back a bit to monkey. Not like anarchism. We're not.
It's not that much monkey, but it's still monkey.
It's still a bit monkey. So.
Fall behind it, Titoism. Yes. I think I've already explained enough as well. I have lived in Titoism, and I honestly Tito. It could honestly even be D-tier at this point, but I think in its heyday, I didn't live in its heyday. I was one after its heyday, but in its heyday, it was very, very good.
Yeah.
After its heyday, it was fucking shit. But it's also actually. I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna put Titoism at the top of D-tier. Because thinking back at it now, and something that I didn't think about before is how it's affected the countries of Yugoslavia in present day.
Yeah, that's true.
And today it's politically corrupt and everything is fucked.
I mean, it's always the talks about like what's happening in Balkans, and you're just aware that area is like
every day is one day closer to a war.
Yeah, more or less. But some parts are better, some parts are worse.
Yeah. Autonism in C tier. I think it's fine to be there. I think it's not as because autonism didn't really have the same effect as Titoism.
Yeah.
On countries,
like we said, it's a good idea on paper, but in practice, it's
never gonna work.
No.
Gender accelerationism in D. I think we already stated our case for that.
Yeah.
Monarchism, aka glory. I mean, I'm honestly happy to put monarchism down to F tier.
Oh.
Well,
under anarchism.
Oh. I think I would rather have a state than being in a dictatorship.
I mean,
would you not?
It's just that if we do not have a state, then we cannot like ensure our own security.
Yeah, okay, I'll put it back then. But yeah, monarchism, then anarchism without adjectives, or anarchism in general. And that's the D tier. Yeah. Then to round off our F tier, impossible and immoral. We have QAnon at the top of F tier. Yeah. I think we already said enough about that. I mean, it's very bad. It's on the capital one. And then, last but not least, Nazism. I think there's
nothing to say about it. We already know.
Well, thank you for listening to this podcast. My name is Alem. Your name has been
Hugo Martinsson.
Yeah, and we have been the Freethinkers. Have a good day. Lovely.